it's another down and dirty day. You know what? I look forward to Wednesdays just to hear you and be with you, Scott, even though we communicate behind the scenes. But if I feel like I haven't talked to you in a while, but we have. But you ever feel like that with somebody? I just feel like I haven't talked with you in a while.
I feel like Wednesdays, we save our really good conversations for Wednesdays. I really feel like we do, because it's like all week, it's kind of fluffy stuff. Maybe it's business, maybe it's, just how are you doing? But then on Wednesdays, we get really, really into some amazing things. So I look forward to Wednesdays too. They're a lot of fun.
I know, isn't it neat? And we've got, I know you and I are biased about our guests, and, we've got she's very pretty. We've got physically pretty, but unbelievably beautiful on the inside as well. Guest today. I'm so excited to bring her out. But before we move forward, happy 1 week into your 28th year of living, Scotty boy.
Yeah, it was one hell of a week too, I might say. Like, my birthday have always pretty much been week-long affairs because I try to see everybody I can that I'm related to or friends with within my birthday week. And so I just spent the entire week traveling, and it was so much fun. But now I'm back on the grind, back on the hustle, and ready to take life seriously again, but not too seriously. So thank you for that. I had a lot of fun. You probably saw the videos.
I did. They were fun. That was so neat. You and your sister were doing that. And you only go a week long of your birthday. I really milk my birthday for a whole freaking month. I mean, seriously, I do it a whole freaking month. But anyways, I want to remind everybody we are broadcasting live at boldradiostation.com. We've got an amazing team here. And let's jump in. Let's just get right on. If you're ready, Scott, let's just jump right into the show because Kris Kelly, I'm usually not speechless or searching for words, but I'm really dig deep into my heart over this woman, Kris Kelly, whom I'm connected with on social media. Kris, we really are so appreciative that you're here on the show today. So come on out, Kris.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So before we go any further, Kris, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Well, let's see. I am an activist. I do animal rescue. I also am an actress, also a recording artist. I just recorded a CD and actually wrote two songs for the animals, which will be coming out soon. And I do real estate also. That we had talked about saying rescue realty, but I've been getting a lot of furry living beings homes lately. So that's really everything I do. I mean, I just do so much, but a lot of the time of my time is dedicated to helping animals. Yeah, and it never stops.
Yeah, and I know that because that's what I see a lot out there on Facebook. And yes, you are an actress and a recording artist. How did you get into your 501c3, the Kris Kelly Foundation? How did that birth itself and evolve? And then I want to really get into, after you answer that, all this. Oh, and by the way, Kris, we do like to swear a little bit. We like to curse a little bit on this show. All the bullshit that people are doing to these poor animals, and we're going to tear this apart because I think there needs to be a lot of realization. So how did you birth your foundation?
Well, I was volunteering for the Lang Foundation when I was a kid, when I first got here to town. And I just what was shocking to me was I always thought, I knew there was animals needed homes, there were animals in the shelter, but what I didn't understand is the abuse. And I remember there was a dog that came in, and he had little round stuff on his belly. And I said, what is this? I just didn't understand. And they were cigarette burns, about like 6 or 7 on the belly.
Oh, my God.
I said, I couldn't, and I said, what is this? And they were like, well, how long have you been in rescue? I said, well, not that long. And they said, oh, cigarette burns, that just happens, and it happens a lot. I said, oh, my God, that was the first time I realized there was some major abuse going on out there, and there was a real dark side to this world. And I remember saying, one day I'm going to start my own foundation. And in 2005, I became Director of Animal Welfare for Beverly Hills and Pacific Palisades. And then in 2006, I just became a 501c3 and became the Chris Kelly Foundation after my mentor, Jillian Lang. And my God, it's been 10 years, and it's just been a crazy ride. I mean, just crazy.
Congratulations. I didn't realize
you.
It's been 10 years. Congratulations to you. I mean,
yeah,
that is
10 years this month.
Yeah, congratulations. That's wonderful. Then something, Chris, yes, you are an actress, and I know you've had some pretty infamous parts out there, and a recording artist as well, and but first of all, I'm gonna sound a little judgmental here for a minute, and I really don't mean to be judgmental, but Chris, you're really pretty. I mean, you're this beautiful blonde hair, beautiful, makeup on, nails done, and here comes this girl, this beautiful woman, who lives out there in the LA area of California. Your background actress and real estate and things like that, and you dance in a very painful arena. I've been there. I've done it here in the Detroit area. You really dance. I mean, you're doing a lot of good, but you dance in a very dark, painful area. And I just want to know how you continue to keep your head up and chin above water and move on forward.
Well, it's weird. It's a calling, it's a calling from God, and if I don't do it, I can get into more of worrying and that darkness if I'm not helping. Prior to not helping, I was getting a strange feeling and anxiety and all that, and I couldn't figure it out, and it was because I wasn't doing anything. So I was getting anxiety about animals being hurt and the suffering, and then I just couldn't understand what would help it. And when I started to do more and more, it subsided. My anxiety subsided. I mean, granted, there are animals out there being abused as I speak that I'm not getting to, so I still have that anxiety too, but it's not as bad. So it's darker if you're not helping. And I always tell people that, my friends that are depressed or they have addictions or anything, if you do something for somebody else, whatever ails you just disappears. And my quote I always say is, I rescue animals, but really they rescued me. So if you give back, no matter what your calling is, it's amazing how everything will disappear. Your depression, boredom, there shouldn't be that in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when that darkness goes away. Believe it or not, if you put yourself in that darkness to put light in there, it will go away.
So, Scott, I do believe your kitty cat came to the show today.
Oh, yeah. That was interesting. Usually Atticus leaves me alone. He doesn't bother me very much. He just kind of lays around. But today, I don't know if it's because I was gone all weekend or just because of the style of interview we're having, but he's literally sitting on my lap and just rubbing up against my hands and stuff. Aww. And I'm a huge pet lover. Sometimes I stick to cats though, because dogs don't. And I think this is a maturity thing, and people who are out there looking to get their pets really need to factor this in. Dogs do not fit my lifestyle. Dogs are very high demand. They require a lot of attention. They require baths. They require a lot of different things that cats, they're not as needy, right? You can leave a cat by himself for a weekend and just have someone come check in when you're traveling. And so I think when people get their pets, they don't necessarily think of the quality of life for the pet.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
and I think that
it's a responsibility.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the problem, and part of what stems and what creates this massive issue on a global scale is that people get pets almost for selfish reasons. They don't think about, okay, am I going to be leaving my dog in a kennel for 12 hours a day while I go to work? Or am I going to have the stamina and endurance at 50 or 60 years old to keep up with an Irish wolfhound? Or, these types of things. People don't necessarily think very far, and then it becomes a problem. And I'm assuming that's, a big part of what you deal with, right? It is, people get pets and just don't care for them the way they should or can't, and then end up abandoning them or worse,
It's true. And they also look at them as like an accessory. especially in this area. You know, they'll buy them and then they get bored, like, you know, we'll buy a bag or a sweater, and sometimes, I'm not into it anymore, you know, and that's what is happening besides the fact that we have a lot of backyard breeders and not spay and neutering, and then they breed them in their backyard, sell them on Craigslist for $50, and whatever doesn't sell, they just let them out on the street. And a lot of it is a cultural thing we have going on here too, and we just have white fluffies running the streets. And then, which is an amazing thing that they do, is that they're dumping them in canyons. And that's where my rescue partner, Faith Easdale, is in the San Bernardino Mountains, and she goes and gets them, and we trap them and all that stuff. But just people will bring them to the canyon as a way to, you know, that's where they will die. They feel that maybe it's better than the shelter, but people, you know, that it's not a way to do it because it's a lot of suffering before they die. They starve.
Yeah.
I mean, what's kinder? Euthanasia?
At least.
Yes.
Yeah, I think, you know, something I'm going to really cut in here right here now, Scott. And Scott and I are being a little tamed right now, but I'm going to open. Scott, you opened up the tameness last week. I'm going to open up this week. You know what, quite frankly,
Go ahead.
you know, again, I used to say, Chris, this just, you know, in the country several years ago. It's just in the country. You know, this is worldly. We're such a throwaway society, an irresponsible society. And here's the deal. I used to have a problem when I worked in animal rescue and things like that. I'd rather cut a chain, and I'll explain that to what I mean here in a moment. I'd rather cut a chain, remove a dog from a starving situation, and bring it to a shelter and give it the respect it needs and euthanize with as humanely as we possibly can. Because, and this is what my beliefs are, and this is what kept me going in animal rescue and things like that, is because then they go off to the Rainbow Bridge and they never have another day when they're worrying about water or food. They frolic and they play. And that might sound a little unrealistic, but those are my beliefs, because when I arrived, I used to be a board member at the Michigan Animal Rescue League, and it's in a city nearby where I live, and the city's called Pontiac, and it's a smaller version of like a Detroit. And I got a little, believe it or not, if I was a doctor, I'd want to be in the guts and butts of an emergency room. I mean, I'm just like, okay, if we're going to do this, let's get into the guts and butts. So we have an organization here. It's a nonprofit, where this woman that was leading this nonprofit, this organization, she has a cell phone, and everybody in the city of Pontiac knows her. Everyone from prostitute pimps to police to people snitching on neighbors to calling her and saying, we need food for our animals. And so I would go out 1 to 2 Saturdays all day a month with a partner, because we go and partnerships, and we would go deliver food to these homes. Now, I remember the first time I did this, I came home, I sit down and look at my husband, and I went, I haven't seen chains since the movie Roots came out. I said, these dogs are on thick collars, padlocks, and chained to trees and dog houses. And I'm like, I don't get this. And so the organization was telling me, well, they do this because it's their alarm, keeping these dogs in the yard like that. It's their alarm. But meanwhile, we're coming in with chain cutters, cutting them in front of the owners, going, hello, look, we're going to cut this, and we're going to give them, of course, longer chains to, you know, a thinner, not so heavy chain to live on so they can move, because these dogs are chained. They very rarely have food and water. They're living in their feces, and in the summertime, flies are on them, eating away their ears. These people don't know this shit. And in the wintertime, the bowls of water are frozen. These dogs have thin hair. They're fucking freezing, excuse me, but yes, I did break the F-bomb today. And they're freezing, and it's like, and these people are sitting in their warm houses. And by the way, let me remind everybody that's listening, these people can do the miraculous act of sex and produce a child, and they have this irresponsibility with dogs. It really concerns me. I'm really starting to perspire because I'm really freaking passionate about this. You know, it just I love you, Kris, so much. I have such high regards and admiration for you, and the animal, the rescuing that you do. But people do not realize when you starve a dog, they have lungs, they have organs, they have blood, and that stuff starts to shut down, and it becomes a very long, drawn-out, painful death for these dogs.
And I tell you, some of these people just don't care. So, and in the eyes of the law, because they're property, and that's what we need to abolish, animals as property. Because, and if we do, everything will just dissipate, meaning factory farming, all that. People have grown up to think, again, that their brains aren't as big as ours, and I've heard all these different stories. But in the eyes of the law, if you're allowed to do it, people will do it. We can't tether. It's against the law here in LA. You're not allowed to tie up a dog in a backyard, especially a chain. But that needs to be stopped because, like you said in Roots, people, African Americans at one point were property, and they didn't think that one day they wouldn't be property, because I know it's a big deal to change this law for animals as not property, but we need to change it. But I mean, believe me, with the meat industry and all that, and the fur industry, because it's money, it would be a huge fight. But that needs to end, and that's why. And these people, I just don't think, they just do not care. And if an animal's going to work for you, just like anybody, then they should get food, water, all that kind of stuff, and you should be cited if you're not doing it. Now, I personally believe that it shouldn't be allowed at all, and I do believe that there are fates worse than death. And if I have to live like that for the rest of my life, I would rather be put down.
I'd rather be dead. Yep.
Yeah. And people need to get involved. We do get involved. I mean, it's not the legal thing to do, but if you call animal control about an animal abuse situation, they do nothing. The police do nothing.
Yeah.
And we never really get anything done until we do it ourselves. And that's that.
I'd like to cut in if you don't mind.
Yeah,
sure.
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, well, there's just something you said a few minutes ago, and I might be opening up the door to a lot of condescension, maybe some hate, maybe some backlash, but that's why we do what we do here. I have actually never been on the activism side of animal rights. Don't get me wrong. I feel that animals are a living being. They deserve to be respected. They deserve to have the freedoms that we have, but I've just never actively pursued activism like the two of you have. Unfortunately, I have been on the other end. I have been part of the problem in the past, where one of my first jobs, I was out of school, just moved to a new city, got a job at a pet store, started at the bottom and worked my way up. And I'm not talking small change. This is like nationwide pet chain. And you're right. The pets as property thing has to change. Mind you, in the last couple of years, I've seen some changes happening. Compassion seems to be winning, thank God. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those things where it's taking far too long. But I've watched staff members euthanize animals improperly.
Oh,
I have seen dogs literally, like small dogs, like I'm talking Maltese, little tiny dogs, fall 6 feet onto the ground from these up high kennels that they were in these shops and break their faces and split their heads open and things like that. And these places are actually allowed to run under those conditions, with like high schoolers taking care of these animals and selling them for thousands of dollars markup. And it's just disgusting, and it burns me up. It was the worst job I have ever had in my life. But part of the problem is that people come in flashing their money, like you said, as if they're going to go buy an English bulldog and it's going to be their new coat. Like they just want to parade them around, and they don't necessarily know the care that goes into it, or the amount. Like, let's face it, just to own an English bulldog alone takes way more care than if you were to go out and buy a Chihuahua. There's just certain little things. The basics are there, but there's so much more that has to go into these different breeds.
The different breeds.
So many people just don't look it up. And I feel like you said, they get tired, they cast them aside, they get bored with them. But by the same right, I feel like the problem has been almost bred into us, where, these pet stores exist And if you can go to a store and buy a dog just as easily as you can go to the store and buy a coat, there's the problem. I feel like pet adoption should be almost as difficult as child adoption.
Yeah, and with the
Yes.
rescue organizations, it is. And they get down on us for that, but this is a living being, you know.
Yeah.
So I agree, and the fact that you can go to a shelter, anybody can just go, and that's what's sickening also, because some serial killer could wake up that morning and say, you know, I'm going to go beat up a dog or a cat, and then go and adopt one. So, or get a free one on Craigslist, you know. So I know, it's horrible, and
also, like, I got into trouble at one point because I have, I guess there's an organization in this town called Karma Cat Rescue Maritimes, and it's a beautiful organization, and you literally have to go through like a screening process. They even come check out your house.
Yeah,
like,
we do.
They literally
check.
do. Yeah. And it's beautiful that they do that. And I got 2 cats from that organization, and it was a long, drawn-out process. It took a month to get my cats. And I was cool with that. I thought that was the greatest thing ever. So after a while working in this industry, I might get in trouble for this. I don't think this is common knowledge, but I started donating bags of food to all the rescue organizations from my job. Like, I started writing off these bags of food and donating them out. And I got into so much trouble for that little act of Robin Hoodism. Because to me, I thought I was doing something selfless. You know, the food was about 6 months out from going bad. Customers aren't going to buy it.
That's something that, I think that's terrific.
Yeah, but I almost lost my job over that and had to stop. But it was one of those things where, like, you know, I was trying to fix the problem that I felt we were creating. Yeah. But as an underling, there was only so much I could do. So it really warms my heart to know that there's more being done, and I guess more aggressively being done too. Like, the act of actually going into these people's yards and saying, listen, you can't treat your dog like that. I love that.
Oh, yeah, we do. And a lot of times we can't really talk to these people, so it's done other ways, you know. Can't say. I mean, not that we hurt anybody, but, you know. But sometimes you just have no choice but to take, you know. So my thing is, what are you going to do, just leave the animal there because nobody is helping? I wouldn't do that with a human. Why would I do that with an animal?
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Yeah. Yep. You just have to take them. And it's, you know, I just look at it as I say to people, if you don't believe in Satan, you haven't been involved in animal rescue. And
there's a darkness there.
Yeah. If you don't believe in that, oh boy, you haven't seen what we've seen. And we're like cops. I mean, we see it. And once you've seen it, you can't explain it. So you know there's a darkness, there's a Satan, there's a, you know, you just know it. You see it. So,
and
you know,
it's not that... Sorry.
No, don't, Scott. You're fine. You know, I think everyone should. First of all, we live in such a painful environment. We really do. I mean, I swear to God, I was thinking, you know, Kris, about you last night in the show coming in today, and I'm thinking, you know, what is it with people? I mean, do we really have a lot of Satanism going on here? I mean, is it Satan in the flesh walking this planet right now? Because not only are we harmful to animals, we're harmful to other human beings. And on top of it, you know, you and I living here in the United States, you know, we're in the middle of and I'm not going to go political. I'm just saying we're going to, you know, we're in the middle of a presidential election. Now we're labelizing everything. We're labelizing people. So, you know, it doesn't surprise me that people still continue to be completely horrible to animals. And I'm going to say something. Unless you physically, like Kris and all her team, and I mean, it's just not even your team, Kris. Oh my God, you got peeps. I mean, you post something on Facebook, and I'm telling you, people come out of the woodwork. I mean, I'm to the point where I'm like, Kris, you know, I guess I can share this, but I really can't help it. And if I lived near you, oh my God, if I had a minute, I'd be in my car. Tell me where to go and let me get the dog. And, you know, I would help. I seriously would help. But, you know, unless you physically see this, and I, unfortunately, physically in person saw back in the day when I was a board member for the Michigan Animal Rescue League, we had in the city of Pontiac, we had a city official kept their little, sweet little, we named her Rosie, terrier, chained to the pole in the basement. And it was their 9-year-old dog, and they called and said something was wrong with their dog. So when the exterior organization that we were working with arrived with the papers to say you are going to surrender this dog should have been weighing about 38 pounds. When this organization got her, and it took talking for them to sign a paper and surrender her, she was laying there in her feces in the basement. She had not had food and water. That dog weighed 9 pounds, and I'm going to tell you, seeing that physically with my eyeballs, we see that stuff, for the ASPCA on TV for their commercials, but that's TV, and I'm not saying that's false. It's very real. But when you see that bag of bones laying there on the floor, and they brought her into the Michigan Animal Rescue League. We had to get her hooked up with IVs, and every time someone would walk by her, her little tail would wag. And we had foster care. We had to bring in the vets. We had a local newscaster who took this completely underneath her wings. Within 24 hours, we had 300 phone calls in less than 24 hours to the organization. Oh, my God, what can we do? I'm a lawyer. I will give you pro bono. What can we do? I mean, over 300 calls just the first day. And it was a beautiful, happy ending to the story, if you will. After a couple of months in getting her healthy and, getting her through everything, they took several applications for this adoption. And I'm talking several, and narrowed them down to 20, and then narrowed them down to 10, then narrowed them down to 5, and then narrowed them down to 1. And it was a retired police officer in a city locally nearby here, husband and wife, who really, really fell in love with Rosie and really wanted Rosie. And it was just the perfect fenced yard, nice home. They were around a lot because they were retired. And they didn't know they were getting her. So the news came in, they hid everything, and they called them to come into the shelter. And they set it up saying, this is going to be the final interview for Rosie. We've narrowed down to 5. We made up this whole story. And they came in and they said, you are going, you're the new parents of Rosie. I mean, the emotions involved, but not all stories, unfortunately, end up that way. I mean, one more day, Rosie would have been in the house. The vet was saying she would have completely shut down and probably would have died. That's how bad it was.
I have a question for you ladies, actually.
Sure.
Are you, because we talked about the really bad stuff, the actual physical abuse, and that was a story of negligence. Which do you feel you see more of? Is it more people just being negligent, or people being actively ruthless? Because I'm not used to this. I don't know. I have no idea.
It's funny you mention a basement, because it'll go through my head, I know there are animals in basements. It's weird, and I always think because we'll never get to them. And I know there are people in basements, when they trap these kids and put them in basements. Yes. So, again, this is the Satan part of the world, and it's so dark. There is a lot of darkness going on, and we get a lot of situations we had one guy, and this is why I'm against the homeless having animals. And I know sometimes I get people, that's all they have. Well, if you don't have a house and you're a drunk or drug addict and you're homeless, and no, you don't deserve it. So there was a guy. It was a friend of mine there was a guy near La Brea who had a pit bull, and everybody was they were trying to help this pit bull. And a friend of mine saw him with the dog, and she called me and said, I see the dog. I said, okay, can you help? So she got out. She's so she doesn't think twice about anything, but she went to go get the dog, and she brought a scissor. She was going to just cut the leash. And the guy fought, like yelled, and then I got the GM on the phone, the general manager of the shelters here. The LAPD came and wouldn't take the dog, even when the general manager said, take the dog to the South LA shelter, to the LAPD. They wouldn't do it. They brought in my friend to the police station because they said that she had a deadly weapon. It was a scissor. So they gave the guy back the dog. That guy, a few days later, killed the dog, dragged the pit bull down La Brea. I was driving down La Brea, I don't know how many months later, and I saw him with another pit bull in front of a liquor store. And I said, what am I going to do? There's really nothing I can do. So 7 months later, I get a call, and my friend who was brought into the station from the LA City Attorney's Office saying that they needed us to come to court. And that dog that I saw, witnesses saw him having sex with that dog, that pit bull. They took that pit bull and brought the dog to South LA shelter and put her down immediately because she was so ripped apart. So this is what I was like. The LAPD wouldn't do anything. They were, leaning towards helping the homeless person. But we know what we're doing, and this sex with dogs happens a lot. We get that in. We get dogs that are ripped up, and it's a misdemeanor, just a slap on the wrist in like this state and others. But in a lot of the states in the United States, it is legal. So there's nothing we can do. So if a dog is ripped up, it's like, just had rough sex.
Kris, this is the first time, I don't live underneath a rock, and I don't doubt that this is going on, but to really sit here and talk, my head just like goes, I just go into, really having sex with the dog and then tearing that dog, good fucking God.
And these are mentally ill people that we just kind of see on the street with an animal, and we just drive by. Yep. And now you understand where PETA comes from. I know PETA, they say, PETA just wants to kill all the animals. Well, if you're looking at it and as a, worldwide problem, you get to the point where, I'd rather not have them be here than being tortured. And that's what PETA believes, and I don't disagree with them. I think that if I was pulling in the money, I put more money into spay and neuter because that's how we're going to solve this problem, is spay and neuter.
Yes.
So I wouldn't kill if I had all that money coming in, but I understand the mentality. I would have rather had that pit bull that I couldn't help at that point die right then.
Well,
than having to go through.
I agree with you, Kris. I agree, and wait a minute, what did I see on Facebook this morning? I don't think it was one of your posts yet, because I'm 3 hours ahead of you, but it was a beautiful video where it was in a veterinarian clinic where they had rescued these couple dogs, and one dog full of mange and had all this, just neglect, came up to this other cute little puppy laying on the table because it was tied to a car, dragged down the street, had blue spray paint all over him. So the front leg they had stabilized, the back leg they were doing everything they possibly could not to have to remove it. And something else with it just been the neglect, but
that sounds like gang initiation.
I was going to say that doesn't even sound like neglect to me. That sounds like just active abuse.
Well, it's gang initiation, and it's also. We can go into the. Okay, first of all, pit bull fighting rings. Okay, first of all, can we just say out loud, pit bulls are not a bad breed. It's how they're being bred and raised. It's the neglect and the bastardization of the human beings. Pit bulls are a phenomenal breed, and any dog, if mishandled on a daily basis, any dog is going to attack. I've pulled up to the Michigan Animal Rescue League one time, and we were walking a full pedigree chocolate lab out. This lab was aggressive, tearing the staff apart, fighting with other dogs, and we had to euthanize it because of behavioral. They don't have unlimited money where they can be bringing in all these trainers and stuff. So a lab mishandled and misbred can also be the same thing. So we need to get off of this pit bull thing, and realize that these pit bull fighting rings for money, oh my God, that is horrific.
No, I agree. And the pit bull, it's just they're very smart and they want to please you so bad. They're a perfect breed to fight because they want to, like my Chihuahuas, no matter what you would do, they don't really want to make you happy. So it's not like they're going to, they're going to listen to you. So that's what the pit bull is mentally, and they're strong, so they could fight well. I think they're the most abused animals in the world. I believe they should stop the breeding. I think that if you breed a pit bull, it should be considered a felony. And then people say to me, but then there will be no more pit bulls. I said, well, fine, because 94.9% of pit bulls are abused, used for fighting, and killed in the shelter. We could go no kill if there were no pits or pit mixes in the shelters. Mm-hmm. And if we don't have that breed in this world, that means they will not be abused. So tough on humans if they're not here. Look what's happening in all the shelters, all pit bulls, on the streets, all the fighting. And the craziest, grossest people are the ones that are attracted to pit bulls. Like if we have a pit bull up for adoption, the phone calls I get are crazy, from the craziest people on the other end.
Yeah. That's so actually kind of funny to me because you've probably never seen me, but Kris, I'm tattooed neck to knuckles. Very kind young man, but if there was a pit bull in your shelter, I would probably be the one to call and go get it.
No, I
look the part of those crazies.
No, but it's not the look. It's the sound, because I don't see them. It's, I'm going to come down and get the pit bull. You know what I mean? It's 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 not because we have a lot of tattooed people here in LA.
Makes me giggle,
and, and all my rocker friends have tattoos, and I have a tattoo. I have a tattoo on my ankle and my little back. I have a Conjo. And I had one on the wrist, but I took it off. But people were just thinking that, I don't know, they thought I was in a gang. I don't know what it was. I had it removed. No, but she's
always got dogs with her. She's always got pit bulls, and she's all tattooed. She must be in a gang, that one.
Yeah. I had the little barbed wire around my wrist, and it just, I don't know, I was getting weird looks, so I took it off. And that hurt to take it off. But there were gang members that were contacting us.
Yeah.
So some of them don't even have tattoos. They may have one or two, So you can't even see them. No, it's the voice. I knew what they were up to.
On the whole bully breed situation, you got Rotties, you've got your pit bulls, you've got these dogs. Even labs have that whole hard-headed. These big dogs. They've always got them fighting. And I'll tell you one thing. My father has bred Rottweilers in the past. He's had Rottweilers, beautiful dogs, friendliest dogs ever. And I would get into huge wrestling matches with them. My mom had a Lab Great Dane mix, and I would wrestle with those dogs. And if those dogs accidentally stepped on you wrong, you could see the shame in their face. They didn't mean to hurt you, or they didn't mean to headbutt you that way, or they didn't mean to whatever it happens to be. They actually, like you said, they want to make you happy. They don't intend to hurt you at first, because no animal's born innately evil,
Right.
But I can honestly say that the meanest dog I've ever come in contact with was a Yorkshire Terrier. Just this one specific Yorkie, and he was the meanest little thing. And I felt like that dog was born that way.
Well, no, I have one here, Artie Shaw, a little teeny Chihuahua. And when I first got him, I was taking a picture of him, and he charged me. He's 5 pounds. And he went to bite me, and he bites me all the time, and he has not been abused or anything. I got him as a puppy. I helped a lady out that bred these Chihuahuas, and she couldn't sell this one, so I took
feel
him,
like they overcompensate.
Yeah.
I guess, and he could be mean, but he's not been abused. No. And he's teeny. But who we just rescued last week, and we do rescue a lot of these, are the fighting roosters, and we just rescued one about 6 of them a couple of weeks ago from the South LA area, and they are trained to fight. So we have one named Theodore that it took us a year to rehabilitate him, but now he's fine and he will not attack. But they are
Roosters
trained.
are evil.
Yeah, but they attack, and there's a big fighting rings around here. The roosters.
Yes.
So I just want to say it on the air. I will never get a chance to say this on the air again, so I want to say this on the air. Man, cockfighting is horrible. I'll never have this window. I'm sorry, but I've had horrible experiences with roosters. My dad had a hobby farm, and those were there were times I thought I'd have to pin a rooster down with a rake so I could go get eggs from the hens, right? But I don't know what it is about birds, but they are terrifying. I've only been literally attacked by one animal in my life, and it was in 2 separate occasions. It was Canada geese, man. They don't like me at all. And then roosters chase me around. They're not very nice, but I've never had issues with dogs. So I don't understand why all these people are like, man, dogs are vicious. I'm like, you think dogs are vicious? Get a goose. But no, I didn't realize that you guys, you rescued roosters from cockfighting establishments. That's awesome.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
So cool.
We also rescue pigs, chickens, and we have 2 pigs. One's 1,000 pounds and one's 800 pounds now, Arnold and Helen. And we rescued them before they were going to be slaughtered. And then we have a lot of turkeys and chickens and roosters, and a couple of horses. One horse that was really badly abused. But, the cockfighting is big around here, too, because we have the culture here. We have a Mexican culture, and they do that kind of stuff. There's a lot of money to be made in it. Which is crazy to me. Each of these roosters that we rescued a couple of weeks ago, these people pay up to $200 for each rooster, and because they're fighters and they're making thousands off of these fights, and they add razor blades to their beaks, and then that's why they're all cut up when we get them. They're cut up on the faces and stuff. So it's just. It's not a really, and then whoever usually doesn't win, they slice up just like they do the pit bulls. They slice them up.
Yep, yeah, it's bad.
And
it's then, we just, like I said, we just have such a irresponsible throwaway society. We just don't care about. We live in such an abundant world, especially here in the United States. We have such abundance, but we just throw away and bastardize everything. And in Canada, Scott, you guys are not a third world country. You guys have got an abundance of stuff up there, and the human being, the human being, and how we are so ignorant to things, and we don't have to be responsible. We just throw things away. We just don't have to be responsible, and that's why we've got, especially in your area, Kris, these little fluff balls running the streets, and and then we've got the pit bulls. Again, I don't understand. Listen, I'll just say this: you don't have to have your dog sleeping in bed with you. I do. She loves to be at the foot of the bed, pressed up against my legs every night, and her and I have a battle for the space, but. I just don't understand people getting dogs and then they just throw them food once in a while, barely keep up on the water, and they're tied to a tree or a half-assed doghouse in the back of the yard. What the hell's the point? Human beings are pack animals. We're not meant to be living alone on a deserted island. Dogs are also pack animals. They love, the touch of the human being, and they love being around other animals, just like human beings. And it's just crazy. And to bring up another topic here is, okay, go put dog in car. It's 90 degrees out. We go to the grocery store and we don't roll the goddamn windows down, which it doesn't even help at that point because it's 90 degrees out, so it's 120 inside the car. People, are you kidding me? And now, not only were we doing that to animals, we've had parents be in such a rush they forget their babies in the back seat of the car in their baby seat. I don't know.
I know, and the car thing, and every time you try to help, every one of them has an attitude. You know,
Oh,
when
yes.
when you come, every one of them. But now we call the police; they come immediately. It's
Yes.
part of. That's one thing about the police. It's like if you give them an order, like obviously the police department now says we go on these calls. Prior to that, they wouldn't come, but now they come in like a second. And every time somebody comes out, they get annoyed. I mean, I had a fight with one guy. He had a Jack Russell Terrier, and I waited. And he was like 6'4" or whatever, and he was arguing with me. And little did he know that, you know, I would get back at him. He was shocked at it. And I met two guys from a local business thought, oh, well, you know, maybe she needs help. And then they go, she doesn't need help, because I was like screaming at him because he was not appreciative, nothing. I know. He says, I watch the news. You watch the news, but then you just did it.
Yes.
You know, the dog was hyperventilating in the car. And I see it over and over. And now
People are so selfish. They think
really-
they're the exception to the rule.
Yeah. You know, I had, you know, now here, you know, Scott, I don't know if you've heard this, but now we're going to get the government involved, and we're going to have laws now that you cannot have your dog in your car. And it's like,
Beautiful.
wait a minute.
Good.
But you know what? Wait, good. I'm a responsible dog owner. I like taking Grace in the car with me, not on 90-degree days where she's suffering. I don't do that. I don't do that at all. And I don't leave Grace when I go to the mall. I'm nervous. I'm afraid. First of all, you can't even see her in my car because my interior's black. She's black. But I'm afraid someone would break in and steal her or something. I just, you know, I'm more responsible. I like taking her in the car. You know, I like taking her places with me. And now it's good. Now we got to get the government involved because these people can't be, because these people are so fucking irresponsible. Give me a break. You know, it's like,
I gotta say, like,
well,
as a non-dog owner, I kind of agree with this. You know, I kind of say this takes out that gray area. Yes, there are people who would follow the rules, but there are people who would definitely, you know, break them and bust them, and that eliminates that, and that makes me kind of happy. Even though, you know, Kim, I'm sorry to disagree with you here.
No.
Put a bonnet on Grace and pretend she's your baby or something.
I know.
But,
I will.
you know, but like I feel like this is a positive step. This is a step in a good direction.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But whenever, you know, it is a good step in a great direction. But you know what? However, again, here we are as human beings being irresponsible, and we got to bring the government in to make these decisions. So here's what I would do. And I think now this is has now been passed here in the not nationally in the United States. I think it's state to state. I think it's here in Michigan. And I would not hesitate doing this anyways. But like Kris said, if you're in a shopping center, which I was a couple years ago, and it was a Saturday afternoon, it was in the 80s, there was a dog in the car with very little windows cracked. And I was going into, it was like a whole food market, healthy market. I went right on in, and I went right to the customer service, and I said, you make an announcement now. Who's ever shopping in here, and this is the car, and this is the dog, immediately. And so I said, do it now. And so they did it. No one showed up. So then I called the police. The police were here immediately. But I think now in the state of Michigan, if we see a dog in a car, we have the right to break the windows.
Yeah.
We as a pedestrian, we have a right to break the windows.
As a vandal, I kind of want to move down to Michigan and break windows. Like,
yeah. I mean,
go ahead.
Even if the dog looks fine, just break the window. You know what I mean? It's how they'll think twice about, you know. I
broke the window, and it turned out he was listening to CCR and having a great time in there, and there was air conditioning. I didn't know.
And all of a sudden, the dog looks at you like, what the heck?
So I have a question for you, Kris. For someone who wants to get involved with the animal activism thing, it's obviously not a gentle world to be in. You're basically hated from all angles. The only person, it's not even a person, the only being that actually appreciates you is the animal itself. What are some recommendations or some tidbits of advice, or even like a first step for someone who actually wants to get involved and do what you're doing, something like you're doing?
Well, if they want to be a 501c3, you just get your paperwork. I would suggest, though, if you're new, obviously not to do that right away, volunteer at your local shelter groups. I mean, there's another side of rescue, too. Not only are you fighting, for the animals on the outside, also the inside. So you have to be very careful who you get yourself involved with in animal rescue, because it does, there's a real dark side of it, too. It does attract some crazies that you think are rescuers, and they're not. And I've never met more of a competitive world than in rescue. And I've never had a stalker until I got into rescue. Yep. So you make sure you choose the people you work with wisely. I, in the beginning, thought, if somebody was interested in saving animals, they're just a good person, and that's not true. So it's like a whole nother show on that. So try to find people that you know are legit, and try to make your circle small. Don't go too big. And you'll learn the difference between radical behavior that's not really doing anything and fight their own people. They'll even fight you as a rescuer, jealousy and all that kind of silliness. And then the people that are really out there, wanting to help. And usually, like, the humane societies are pretty level-headed and that kind of thing. Fosters are needed big time. Donations, the smallest amount of donations will help. Supplies will help. Any little thing you can do. And another thing I want to add, if you can even rescue an animal every day and not leave your home. Cut down on your meat intake. That's huge. And, I always say the animals repay you with your kindness by giving you great health, because the factory farming is out of control. And that's, you want to know abuse. Whew, there's your abuse.
Definitely. It's crazy. So, crazy. I know my brother, I was talking to him last week, and he mentioned that, my brother, my father, and my uncle all went down to Panama. And they said that the stray dog situation there is out of control. It's crazy. And my mother-in-law, my stepmother, actually, she was down there, and she immediately got involved. And there was this, she started getting dogs fixed. That was her answer right away. She started picking up dogs, going to the shelter, and she, she actually asked if she could start, volunteering at the shelter there to help with the whole procedure, to help fix the dogs, to help whatever she could do, because they just let them run the streets down there, Yeah. And I'm wondering, why if you don't mind just kind of helping me out a bit here, why the neutering right away? Is that just to stop the spread of the reproduction and to keep things under control?
Yeah, because if we would, let's say every animal was neutered right now and spayed, we wouldn't have a problem in 10 years. What's happening is, they're just procreating on the streets and then in backyards, and then we're killing them. We kill thousands and thousands and thousands per week at all these shelters. Could you imagine? If we would just, we don't enforce spay and neuter. It's on the books, it's a law, but we don't enforce it. We don't go to the neighborhoods that are having the problems, and that's where we're having the problems. And I mean, Panama, forget it. These other countries, I mean, Mexico, we do rescue from Mexico too. The abuse that we see coming from Mexico is beyond what you could imagine. And they're running the streets also, and they're being abused, and it's just, like I said, it's a cultural thing too. So it's Mexico. There's just a lot of violence, and it's and I'm not putting Mexicans down. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I love the culture. There's a lot of that's great, but they need to be educated with animal welfare. They don't get it, and a lot of the Mexicans that are here in LA, they think it's Mexico. It's no, it's not Mexico. They're running the streets. We have a lot of traffic, and they're getting hit by cars, and then they don't have the money to pay for the surgery.
at the same time, the problem gets to the point where, there might be 5 or 6 dogs on the street fighting over one female, and you don't want to be the human being that goes in there and tries to break that shit up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
And
none of those dogs are spayed and neutered in those areas.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, I've been to those areas, and they're not. So, and the Mexican people love the animals. They're good people. They're humble people, and they just don't get it, and they don't want to get it. Like, you'll say to them, you'll talk to them, yeah, but you should get spayed. No, that's bad. They think it's bad. The men don't want. They think that it ruins the male dog, not to have the balls. You know what I mean? No, it'll ruin them. I'm like,
I'm telling you, that's, when we were in the Pontiac doing that street work, we have a clinic twice a year, spay and neuter, and it's, they will spay and neuter if they prove that they're 18 years and older, the owner of the dog, and live in the city of Pontiac. Do you know, when we try to educate these people, talking to a man, I felt like I was talking to the man and I was going to cut his balls off and not the dog's. Right. It's like, no, honey, not you, your dog. You're, and they're like, oh, no. And there's so much. This is a whole other show, leaving a male dog intact. The testicular, oh my goodness, I can't even talk.
Testicular. I've got a set. Let me fill in. Testicular.
Yeah, go ahead. Scott, you're cracking me up today. The cancer that's involved in that, by just leaving that fact alone, not to mention, the neutering to keep, the reproducing going on with these animals. And Kris, you're so spot on. We're not breeding. We do have professional breeders, but they do it. A lot of people do it. These professional breeders do it legitimately and ethically. But when you've got backyard shit going on, that's not legitimate. That's not ethically. That's bastardization at its finest. Then they're giving the puppies away. And let me tell you where those puppies are ending up. Those puppies are ending up in the ring as bait of pit bull fighting, not to mention, being... It's crazy. I cannot believe we only have a couple minutes left to the show.
I know that hour. My God, that went fast.
I'm going to quickly jump in here, though, and say that I know some pet owners who should probably have their balls chopped, too. Just saying.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, I agree. I believe in spay and neuter for people more.
Yeah.
Most people shouldn't be having children. Sorry, I know it's terrible.
But it all comes down to, I've always said this, I think it takes a license to have children. And quite frankly, if you have been arrested for animal abuse and has spent time in jail, because those laws are very whimsical and quite frankly, spineless, if you ask me. But then when you come out, on your driver's license, it should be marked somehow or another, so you cannot go get another animal. And I say that because they do that state to state for transgenders. So if you're a transgender and you want to change your birth certificate state to state here in the United States, you cannot do that. And they're marking the driver's license on these transgender.
Oh my God! Why would they? That's so ridiculous. I had no idea.
If we are state to state, and only a couple of states are doing that, if we're doing that to, God forbid, human beings, where are these animal abusers that have been convicted? I want their driver's license marked. I want their whole bodies marked, so that when they go to an organization, they cannot get another dog. Damn it, they cannot.
I agree with you. That if you're a child molester, it should say it on there too. If they're going to do that to transgender people who have not done anything wrong, they should do it for people that are doing something wrong. That's dumb. I had no idea that. So stupid.
We should have to tattoo paw prints on all of their foreheads if you've abused an animal.
Yeah,
exactly. With an X on it, with the X over the paw.
Yeah, with the X. I know.
Yeah, I agree.
So, Kris. You know what? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but can you please tell everybody how they can get involved with the Kris Kelly Foundation before we wrap this show up?
Yes. Our website is www.thekriskellyfoundation.org. The shortcut is KrisKelly.org, KrisKelly.org. And we're also on Facebook. If you go to facebook.com/Kris Kelly Foundation, you can see our main page. And my page is facebook.com/Kris Kelly. So you could always contact me through Facebook. My website, my email is Kris@thekriskellyfoundation.org. Also, that's my direct email. So if you have any questions or you need my help in any way, feel free to call me.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And we are at the top of the hour, so we're going to push this a couple extra seconds here of the show. So everyone, please reach out, get to know Kris. I love your, for lack of better words, your advertisements on Facebook, Kris, for the Kris Kelly Foundation. You say something, it's like, just $5. It's something as simple as $5. And I think that $5 for a lot of people is very manageable to donate to help continue rescuing these animals and get them in places where they are safe, where they get some proper medical needs so they can be placed in their well-deserved loving homes. And that is the ultimate solution with Kris and the Kris Kelly Foundation. These dogs are placed. You got some couple cute dogs coming through, and I'm like, oh, Kris, I really want a baby sister for Grace. I'll take that dog. Shall we meet halfway between Michigan and California?
Anytime. You know, we will get the dog there. We have now a couple of them at the vet that were hit by cars. One, the jaw was broken. Somebody kicked him in the jaw. So we just got his jaw fixed. So yeah, $5 adds up to help us with our medical bills, and they are hefty.
Yeah, I feel like we need Nesha to come in here and clear his throat. Like,
I know, exactly. I know. With to make everyone sit up and listen. Nesha, our producer, clears his throat, and we all sit up and go, okay, Nesha's clearing his throat. We better sit up and listen. And I think he needs to come clear his throat, so everybody sits up and listens about. We again, we're a couple minutes over. This is an hour show of everyone listening. The depth of the pain these animals endure, the depth. So let's stop the pain. Actually, let's not even just stop the pain with the animals. Can we stop the pain within ourselves, for fuck's sakes? And so we
take a positive step forward.
Yeah, and so we can stop with the pain of these animals, stop with the pain of our babies, stop with, being hateful towards transgender people or this or that. Stop with that. Stop. And a lot of this is ignorance. So please, everybody, track Kris down on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Twitter. Go over to the KrisKellyFoundation.org. I mean, $5. Just make a donation. Kris, I'm literally standing in my studio in my office here, and I'm bowing and paying homage to you. You do amazing work. I'm in awe of you. You stand in a very dark, deep arena, and you just keep persevering and pushing through. And thank you so much for what you do out there in the LA area for these dogs. I mean, and not just dogs, but the other animals too. So thank you so much.
Thank you for
Kim.
giving
Thanks
us.
for inviting me. Thank you, guys. It was so much fun, and I appreciate the time. And I just want to say, like what you were saying, people should just keep their hands to themselves. You don't have the right to harm verbally, physically to anybody. No. And once we learn that, we should have learned that in school. But enough with the bullying. You can't bully other people, and you can't bully animals. And that's that. Just keep it to yourself.
Exactly.
If you're angry, you keep it to yourself, and let's have some respect. That's it comes right down to it.
If you're angry, throw some big marshmallows at the wall. The marshmallows don't damage your drywall and your paint, and you release the anger. I'm telling you.
Exactly.
And on that note, we're going to wrap up the show. Kris, we're going to swing back around and have you back on down the road here. I mean, it's just, like I said, an hour is just not enough. And as you know, we are a few minutes over, so we're going to wrap this around.
Yes, I know. And thank you. I would love to come back anytime, Kim.
Yeah,
anytime.
We appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You're welcome, you guys. Have a good rest of the day. And again, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
guys are good people. Thank you.
Absolutely. Keep doing the work you're doing, Kris. And everybody, thanks for joining Scott and I with another Down and Dirty. Think twice about when you start hurting internally. Those internal words to yourself of hurting come out somehow or another. And I'll tell you what, it takes one person to make that change, and then all else will follow. So those poor little four-legged babies, and as soon as we get off the show, I'm going to go find my baby Grace who's left my office. I'm going to kiss all over her. So go out there and make it a great day. Join Scott and I right back here, same time, same place next week for another Down and Dirty show. See you all later. Bye, Scott.
See you later.